Hi everyone, it's Grace. Welcome back to my channel. This is Florida Landlord and Tenant Act Part 2. In last week's video, I covered topics about the return of the security deposit, lease termination date, and landlord's access to the rented premise. In today's video, I will cover topics about handling of advance rent and security deposit, lease termination and non-compliance, and liquidated damages. Number 1. Handling of security deposit and advance rent. Florida statute determines that upon receiving the security deposit and advance rent, landlord must deposit it into a separate account in a Florida banking institution and not commingle with other funds. And landlord has 30 days to give written notification to tenant where the deposit money is being held. Number 2. Lease termination and non-compliance. Before we delve into lease termination and non-compliance, let's look at what Florida statute says about landlord and tenant's obligation to the rented premise. The landlord needs to comply with the requirements of applicable building, housing, and health codes, or otherwise maintain the roofs, windows, doors, floors, steps, porches, exterior walls, foundations, and other structural components in good repair and capable of resisting normal forces and loads, and plumbing in reasonable working condition. In addition, the landlord also needs to remain extermination of pests, provide locks and keys, keep clean and safe conditions for common areas, perform garbage removal, and maintain heat facilities. And tenant needs to comply with the provisions of building, housing, and health codes, just like landlord, and keep premise clean and sanitary, remove garbage from rented unit, clean and maintain plumbing, and use in a reasonable manner with electrical, ventilating, sanitary, heating, AC, and other appliances. The tenant cannot destroy or damage the premise and needs to use proper conduct. These are the general rules for the landlord and tenant's obligation, and specific rules are written in a residential lease for both parties to refer to. Non-compliance means that either landlord or tenant fails to comply with the obligations specified in a residential lease and Florida Landlord and Tenant Act. If landlord fails to comply within 7 days after the tenant gives written notification about specific non-compliance, the tenant may terminate the lease. On the other hand, if the tenant fails to comply and is given an opportunity to fix the non-compliance, the tenant will have 7 days after the landlord delivers written notice. If the tenant is not given an opportunity to fix the non-compliance, which leads to further non-compliance within 12 months since the date of the written notice from the landlord then may terminate the lease and give 7 days notice for the tenant to vacate the premise. The term non-compliance includes, but not limited to, destruction, damage, or misuse of landlord's or other tenants' properties. Number 3. Liquidated damages. The last part about liquidated damages can be difficult and painful, but it is important to understand what it is and how it works. The Florida statute determines that if landlord and tenant agree to liquidated damages or early termination fee, the amount should not exceed 2 months' rent, and the tenant is required to give written notice in no more than 60 days. So this is part 2 of Florida Landlord and Tenant Act. I know there's a lot of information, but it is important to understand how the act works. If you have questions about your current lease, I encourage you to get in touch with a Florida attorney for your situation. I hope you find today's video useful. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.